Today I'm speaking with Cynthia Morfin. Thanks for coming and speaking to us today, Cynthia. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And before we get started on, you know, your reason for being here, can you tell us who you are? Who is Cynthia?
So, my name is Cynthia Morfin, and I am transitioning from 9 to 5 as a surgical tech working in the operating room and changing my career into an empowerment coach. So, I
Ah,
help women who are ready to leave their 9 to 5 and help them create their desires for entrepreneurship, just like
oh,
me.
okay, all right. So you help us make that jump off the cliff, right?
Yeah, like, let's go. I'll hold your hand. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a really good job to have
Yeah,
because I know from experience that a lot of time we're a little afraid of making that leap, even if it's for part-time side hustle, so to speak. So we need people like you to sometimes give us that nudge that we need. So
exactly. And that's
yeah.
that's what I love. I am actually part-time working, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this on as a side hustle to potentially be my full time gear and be able to work from home. I have 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old preteen, you know how that is. I
Mm-hmm.
have a 5-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy who's autistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to be at home more. And yeah, so I want to share my story so I can help other women who want to do the same and leave their career because we're capable of that.
Yeah, of course. I actually just posted something on LinkedIn talking about how when we're a solo mom, we sometimes have to find ways to create work for
Yeah.
ourselves because we want to create the environment, to raise our kids. And sometimes we don't get that support in the workplace. So,
No, we don't. But I feel like there's nothing like a solo mom with that fire to really just push through and to create that. So I love
right.
I love your title, solo mom. I think that's awesome because speaking from experience, we find ways.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And leading on to into that, you mentioned that you was a solo mom at one point,
Yeah.
and then you got married, and it seems that you're venturing into solo motherhood again. So,
Yes.
first of all, could you tell us as much of the first story and the second story as you can? How did you become a solo mom?
So I had my first son in my early 20s, and it was like my high school sweetheart. It was a time where we were rebellious and partying and drinking, and then I got pregnant and things changed. I became a mom, and he stayed the same. So during that time is when I really found my strength. I actually was looking for help in many places. So I went to welfare, and then I was asking for more help for education. So I was able to get a grant, which paid for my schooling, which led me to become a surgical tech.
Okay.
So after becoming a surgical tech and doing that, I literally dropped everything. Like I dropped friends and like I totally focused because now I was raising this little man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I let go of everything and focus. And God blessed me with a great job, with benefits and everything. And I was able to get like my own little apartment and decorate his room. And it was like a really good time for me. And during that time, as time went on, I was single for 5 years actually until I met my husband. And I was like head over heels. He was like the perfect man for me and everything that I thought I wanted during that time. And you know, fast forward to now, I found out that he has been cheating on me we've been married for 5 years. So he's been cheating for about I would say half of that amount of time. And so I'm kind of like reverting back in that aspect of, becoming a single mom again, now of three and one with autism, which I'm not sure if people are aware, but it's just a lot of time consuming, a lot of therapies, a lot of, hands on, as motherhood wasn't already enough.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So during this time, I actually wanted a change. And I thought my change was going to be to stepping into this life coach, but who knew what God had planned for me, right? Things were revealed, and now I'm currently going through a divorce. And the way that I see it and my mindset is like, if I could do all that back when I was so young, 20s, and pursue all that and get to here where I'm at, because I have so much more. I had literally nothing. I mean, I was
Yeah.
on welfare. I used to be embarrassed to tell people I was on welfare, and embarrassed, that I couldn't buy my kid diapers and just all these things. And to be here now, like, I have a home, I have a career, good source of income, at least where I can still progress. So I see it now as like my time of evolution.
Okay. All right. So wow, you are experiencing a lot of life changes all at once.
Yes.
And that sounds so typical of the solo mom journey. There's the emotional aspect of losing a loved one, like, so you got to mourn, you have to mourn that relationship. But in the meantime, before you are separated, you got to deal with whatever is going on there to get separated, right?
Yeah.
So you have that dealing with, you have to figure out what's best for you and your children. But then you also have three lives, to think about while you're making all these other major decisions. And one of those children need special care, more
Mm-hmm.
attention than, and correct me if I say all this wrong because I'm not familiar with kids who are autistic, who will need more attention than the other two may need,
Yes,
right?
a lot
Yeah.
more.
Okay. So how are you dealing with all of this? And then you're thinking about helping people. I mean, why not just stick to your job and
Well, I mean, so I didn't mention, but during 2020 and 2021, I actually lost both parents. So I lost my mother
oh.
in 2020, and then shortly after she was on hospice, I went and I took care of her. She lived in another state. So watching my mother's death, and then the next following year, watching my dad also pass away because, the caretaker passed away. And then finding out my husband has been cheating on me, put that in perspective of like, what am I going to do with my life? And,
Okay.
and it put that, like, in my mind, it put, okay, like, it's my turn to make this what I want a reality. And my mother has always been like super loving and caring and helpful. And that's something that I admired about her. There was one thing that I didn't really want to be like my mother. I know this might be like in a negative way, but it was that having like the man overpower the woman. Because I felt like she held back so much for my dad that she wasn't able to reach her true potential. So that's why I'm so inspired to help women, and also to just embody that so they could see me and my story and what I'm going through, and to see that, yes, there's obstacles, yes, there's trials, but we can still get through it if we focus on forward and not back. Because a lot of people look back, they're like, poor me.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. Like, I'm a single mom. I'm like, okay, I'm a single mom. I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to look good. I'm going to work on myself so I can be healthy for my kids, you know?
Right. And that's why I asked that question because because, I mean, why not just hang out and chill and lick your wounds and, the husband's doing this,
Mhm.
my mom and dad died, nobody cares, and I have to deal with all this in front of me, which is how we operate at times, right?
Yes, a lot of us do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very thrilled that I get the chance to talk to you for you to tell us that it is possible to not only move on from whatever it is you're dealing with, but while you're in it, you could still look after yourself, one, and number two, do things that empowers you to move forward,
Yeah.
once you're out of that mess, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, as women, we tend to, for one, I want to say, it's okay to mourn. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad or feel, maybe lost at times and not sure of where
Mm-hmm.
you're going. But I do want to say the number one thing is ask for help. And
Yeah.
I think as women, we tend to not ask for help because, whether we're like that, we're wounded, we've had experiences where we've asked and people don't help, but there is people willing to help you if you've asked.
Mm-hmm.
I do therapy. I have my own coach. I have family and friends who are also helping me during this process. Like I don't have my parents, and I have, a sibling that we're actually not really close, but you still have that foundation, and those are the people. Don't be afraid to ask for help, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's a good one because we tend to get embarrassed and, have this low self-esteem because someone, kicked us to the
Yeah,
curb, literally.
literally.
And we don't want to depend on anyone. But the truth is that we have to depend on someone.
Yeah. And also
So,
depend on yourself, because I feel
yeah.
like what we really lack sometimes as women is that we're intuitive. We're naturally
Mm-hmm.
intuitive, and
Mm-hmm.
you listen to other people and you tend to, like who's right and who's wrong. Like, what do you want? What is your desire?
Yeah.
Like what's
Yeah.
the next step for you? You don't have to think so far ahead, but maybe just doing something to make yourself
Yes.
feel better like that. Like I feel like for me, sometimes it's just putting a little oil on my face and like massaging it in, or like lighting a
Mm-hmm.
candle, something to like make
Yes.
you feel that, yeah, like that. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's gonna be
But
okay.
yeah, and it's a very hard place to find ourselves because we're our worst critic,
Yeah.
right? And when we've made the past mistakes, we don't let it go, right? We don't say, okay, I did that, wasn't too wise, moving on,
Yeah.
you know. So the next time we need to make a decision, we freeze because, well, what if I mess it up this time,
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, tend to kind of reflected back on ourselves, like what happened, like what did I do, did I not do enough of this? And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
those are normal thoughts, and like what I recommend is if you're feeling those thoughts, journal it, write it down,
Yes.
get it out.
Yes. It's one of my favorite
Yeah,
ways.
I
Yes.
love journaling. I
Yes.
think journaling has helped me so much. So I
Yes.
feel like if you get it out and then now start putting back in, and changing that mindset of like lack and turn it into gratitude. What do you have? What have you done in the
Yes.
past? Maybe a struggle that you've gone through in the past to get you here. That's
Yes.
what's helped me. I was a single mom
Yes.
before. What's two more
Yeah.
kids? What's two more kids?
Yeah.
One with autism. What is it? It's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Celebrate those wins.
Yes.
Always
And
help.
remind
Yes.
yourself of what you're capable of, because I think
Yes.
you tend to lose yourself in that sadness, and that,
Yeah.
don't lose yourself in that sadness. It's okay to be sad. It's normal. Allow
Mm-hmm.
yourself to be
Mm-hmm.
sad, and allow yourself, like you said, to mourn, but
Yes.
also be open to the opportunities of like what can be now. Like,
Right.
for me, I'm like, oh, okay, like now it's my time to shine. And like, I don't have to ask
Yes.
for permission, or I don't have someone that I have to like consider of what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, you mentioned that your youngest son, is
Mm-hmm.
autistic, and how do you navigate parenting, um, that child? Like, tell me what that's like.
So my youngest, he was born premature. I actually had my kids back to back. So my daughter
Mm-hmm.
and him are 8 months apart because he was born premature. They were supposed to be 11
Mm-hmm.
months apart. So for a little time, they're both the same age.
Right.
So he was like a normal child from, 1 to 2, almost about 2. Then he started to regress. They call it regression, when they kind of start to pull back. So he was saying like,
Mm-hmm.
Mama, Papa, and he was playing, he had great eye contact. And then he just all of a sudden changed. It was like he would
Hmm.
go to the corners and hide. And, as mothers, at least the type of mother that I am, I was like, what's going on? And I would do research and
Right.
would look, and I thought he was autistic. So when we went to his checkup, because I would literally like pick him up and look into his eyes, and he would kind of like rotate his eyes, like it was like a forced, for him to look at me, was like forcing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing research on like autism and like what I can do. And it was just a mess because during this time it was COVID. So the only
Mm-hmm.
therapy that we were able to do was virtually, which is really hard. So kids with autism, they lack, their attention span. His attention span was like maybe 20 minutes for certain like subjects, maybe like a puzzle or like certain toys and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
navigating through this was very interesting, I'm going to say. It taught me a lot. Even now to this day, I love my son, and I feel like any parent who has a special needs kids knows that like you're willing to go that extra mile for them. So I would really focus on like, how can I help him and what does he like? Because I think that's the main thing with kids with autism, is like what intrigues them. It's not about, they don't learn the way that you learn. They learn the way that they learn specifically. It's like they're so specific.
Okay.
So my son is
Yeah.
like, he likes very animated, he loves puzzles and numbers. So, which is great because I'm very animated. You know what I mean? When God
Mm-hmm.
sends you
Mm-hmm.
something, he's
Yeah.
like, look, this is actually
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so
Ah.
navigating through that has been interesting. It's been difficult because when I first found out, my concern was what other people were going to think, of my child, because, I had friends who had kids same age. So I was afraid of them comparing them
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the difference. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hid for a while. And then I got to the point where like, you know what? This is who we are. Like, I need to speak
Mm-hmm.
up for him. And so, I'm Mexican, I'm a Latina. And what I found out in my culture and a lot of the minorities is that they don't know the resources. They don't
Right.
know of like where to look, how to find, and even as an English speaking, Mexican American, it was very difficult to find. So my not only am I doing life coaching, but I also want to advocate for minorities, with people
Mm-hmm.
with kids with autism, because I think it's so important to share the knowledge, and like what's helped me might help other parents who are dealing with the same, and um they're not separate, like
Yeah.
inclusion. We
Yeah.
are community, just like those solo
Yeah.
moms. We are also a
Mm-hmm.
community, because I know there's a lot of moms who also have kids with autism that are single moms, and they might have two
Yes.
two autistic children. They might have three, my
Yeah.
pediatrician told me she has a mom who has five. So
Wow.
imagine,
That's a
yeah, I
lot.
mean, like how powerful
Yeah.
women are.
Yeah. Yeah. The only person I heard say, I don't know if you've heard of Michael Todd
Mm-hmm.
with Transformational
Mm-hmm.
Church. He has a son, and his son is autistic, and he talks about it all the time. How he doesn't even accept that. He's just, he's just gonna not accept it. I mean, do what he needs to do, of
Yeah.
course, but from a spiritual point of view, he doesn't accept that. Um, but I imagine it's a lot to handle. Um, but depending on how you look
Yeah.
at it,
I think it is a lot
because
to handle, but it's
yeah,
very rewarding
yeah,
because it's like the things
yeah.
that you might take for granted with your average child. I don't like to say average, but like, with milestones and stuff
The
like that.
other
Yeah.
children,
Other
yeah.
children, the
Mm-hmm.
milestones that they hit them where they're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be, but this one takes a little bit. You know how like they say like every flower blooms at different times? It's like you appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. Like every night,
Yeah.
I agree with what you said about him saying that because I just consider my son a genius. And I tell him every night before he
Mm-hmm.
goes to bed, I'm like, you're my little genius. You're amazing. You're going to do wonderful things because I believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
I see the potential in him, but he needs my help to get him there.
Yes. 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 There's a story in, I think it was the book Think and Grow
Uh,
Rich. And I think it's the narrators, because I do the audible version. And this might help someone, if not you. And he tells a story of his son who was born without an
yes,
ear. I don't know
I
if you heard
I
about
have.
that.
I love that book.
Yeah. And he ignored everything the doctors told him. That without an ear he can't hear, and all
Yes.
these different things that wouldn't happen, and he wouldn't be normal. But he kept telling his son, "You can
Yeah.
hear," and his son became a spokesperson and a leader in the industry for helping people who couldn't hear.
Yes. I love that
So
story.
the encouragement from mom especially, who have, regardless of what people will say about this, who have the more hands-on approach to parenting, and especially if you're the only parent, it's very good to have you encourage them and tell them what God is whispering to you to tell
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? Because you're going to believe God's promise, not the doctor's
Exactly. And
threats.
no one can tell you what your kid's potential is. No one knows
No.
because these kids, they surprise you. I mean, my kid is 4
Yes.
and he just turned 4 and he hasn't been able to speak, and I wonder like,
Mm-hmm.
I asked the doctors, like, at what age do you like transition to something else? Like they have little speaking
Mm-hmm.
devices or like you teach them other things. And they told me age 6. So, like my mom brain is like tick, 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 like we're 4 already. And now
Mm-hmm.
he's starting to say certain things, like cookie. He's starting to say, good night, hi. These are the things
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
don't sound like not normal. I hate saying that. I'm going to stop saying that. But they don't sound, because he's learning. So they sound different, but you're like I cry.
Yes.
I'm so excited and I find, and I'm
Yes.
like, wow, all this work that I've been doing and practicing and spending every little time, like narrating my day. Like I literally like open,
Yes.
close, you know what I mean? Like push the
Yes.
button, like
Yes.
everything is so hands on with him, but
Yes.
I see the reward.
Yes.
And that's what really makes me feel like, wow, like you know, I'm actually creating
You're
this
supporting
time.
him. Yes.
And that's something that we need to
Mm-hmm.
do in ourselves as solo moms. As much as you do
Yes.
for your kids, do for yourself too, because they are watching
Yes.
every move. Just like my son with autism,
Yes.
he's watching every move. They watch you
Mm-hmm.
cry. They see how strong you are. They see your potential more than
Mm-hmm.
you see it yourself. So the way that you look at
Yes.
your children, you should also look at yourself. The way that you speak to your children, like that my daughter, I tell her all the time, you're my best friend. I love you so much. I love
Yes.
everything about you.
Yes.
You know? And she says it back to me and it feels so good, because it's like
Yes.
I'm putting that love in
Yeah.
her. So when she's a woman,
Yes.
you know, she She can feel that
Yeah.
for herself, and there's no lack.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And well, I believe when a woman feels that love, grow with that love inside, knowing her self-worth, it's hard for a man to treat her bad. And it's very difficult for her to choose the wrong
Yeah.
person.
Or
I
or
think
even if,
that's
like,
my
let's
belief.
say, I mean, for instance, like, I thought I chose the right person, and I maybe for a time, but
Mm-hmm.
even after the fact, you don't allow that situation to define you, because you know who you are.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I love this conversation. I didn't know this was where it was going to go, but
Yeah.
it's going where it should. All right. So we've talked about a lot of things happening in your life. What is Cynthia grateful for
Oh,
today?
so many things. I'm grateful for my children who inspire me to grow. I'm grateful for meeting new people. That's one of my main goals,
Mm-hmm.
actually, was to make more connections. And I'm grateful for the opportunity of growth.
Okay. That's very nice. Thank you. All right. Okay. So, you're starting to do life coach, helping moms transition or at least have another
Mhm.
outlet for a career. Can you tell us how we could get in touch with
Sure.
you, and also tell us about your
Okay.
program?
So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Cynthia Empowers on Instagram. And you can also email me at morphinecynthiacoaches@gmail.com. And what I do is I help you set up goals, help you, strategize and create just techniques and things in order to get you to where you want to be. We kind of like break it down to see, like, what is it specifically that you're wanting? What is specifically that you're looking for? And I don't only do moms, I also do just women in general. But moms,
Okay.
I'm all for it, because who better? You're already a boss
Well,
in
you're
your
a
own
mom,
home.
right? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And okay, so those are the two ways we can get in touch with
Yes.
you. Okay, all right, I'll put those in the show notes. And give me one piece of advice you have for a solo mom.
Uh,
Anything that comes to
for
mind.
solo moms, I say don't look back, look forward.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Cynthia Morfin, for
Thank
coming and talking to us today. I enjoyed
Me
this
too. I loved
conversation.
it. Very empowering.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah,
having
thank
me. I
you.
appreciate it.